Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and normally I try and do some witty intro, but I just want to give a big rest in peace to Jeremy Bulloch, who played Boba Fett in the original Star Wars trilogy. Jeremy left a huge impression that pretty much made Boba one of the coolest characters in the galaxy, and without his performance it's highly doubtful that we would be here right now talking about this episode. It's sad that he died just before one of the big announcements in this entry, and my thoughts go out to all his friends and family. Now episode 8 is the finale, and what a way to close out the season it is. Last week we ended on the cliffhanger that Mando was basically doing a Liam Neeson and coming for Grogu no matter what. However, he doesn't do it alone, and this episode brings back not only Katan, but also Luke Skywalker, who will be training the child. I never thought that they would actually bring him back, and I was so happy to be proven wrong, as it completely elevated this episode because of his appearance. The show also has a post-credit scene that confirms a Boba Fett show is coming in 2021, and that will be titled The Book of Boba. We're going to be breaking it all down, of course, but we start with Slave 1 chasing down an Imperial shuttle which has Dr. Pershing riding on it as a passenger. You may remember from season 1 that Pershing was actually the character that wanted to keep the child alive after the client said he could be killed, and he comes across as more of a good guy under the control of the Empire instead of just an evil scientist. Slave 1 manages to disable the shuttle by hitting it with an iron cannon, which is pretty much the Star Wars equivalent of an EMP. They then board, which is where we get a great exchange from one of the Imperial officers. If you followed our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. breakdowns, then you may remember this is the guy that also played Nathaniel Malik, and I love how he's a complete Imperial loyalist that doesn't mind blasting his mate and painting himself into a corner. He taunts Cara over Alderaan and says that he witnessed the planet being destroyed, something he takes great joy in. I love how angry he gets over her asking which Death Star he was on, and the guy probably lost a lot of friends, which is why he's such a villain. I know you're a good guy. Now after commandeering the shuttle, they journey to Bo-Katan, and you can actually spot her gauntlet ship, which looks completely awesome. She's joined by Koska Reeves, played by Sasha Banks, but unfortunately Axe Woves isn't there. They never bring up why, so I don't know what's happened to the character, but hopefully we will see him back further down the line. Bo kinda looks down on Fett for being a clone, and as we know, the lore has gone back and forth over whether he's a true Mandalorian or not. Though it was confirmed he was, he also said he never said he was a Mandalorian, so let the debates continue once more. Now Fett talks about how Mandalore was turned to glass, and that it's pointless taking it back. The planet was completely racked with not only civil war, but also separatist and imperial invasions which left it a complete wasteland. Glass is of course made from sand, so I really appreciated this remark. He and Sasha go head to head after she says she didn't know the sidekick was allowed to talk, and it's the Star Wars equivalent of the pot calling the kettle black, which means they go face to face. They even use the same weapons as each other, and I love how there's the kind of mirroring of the past and future here as we watch them duke it out. Now as we know from episode 3 of the season, Bo wants nothing more than to take down Moff Gideon and get the Darksaber back. Thus, the group all come to a deal and decide to join forces. I love how the Imperials almost got what they wanted and had them fighting themselves for a bit instead of them, and this was pretty much how they managed to seize Mandalore, as the inhabitants were at constant war with one another. They scan the Moff's freighter, and Pershing also brings up the Dark Troopers, stating that they're third generation and no longer reliant on soldiers. Originally, they were troopers who had abilities that belonged to the dark side, and this made them adept at fighting for the Empire. However, as time went on, the Imperials decided to iron out the failures, and they eventually replaced the humans with droids so that they would serve without failure. Using the Lambda shuttle, the group make it seem like their Imperial forces being attacked, and it's one of the smartest sneaking on board something plans that I've ever seen. It's upon landing on the ship that things really ramp up, and we watch as the girls get it done and create a distraction, whilst Mando makes his way to the child. See Marvel, this is how you do girl power without forcing it. Now Mando passes a droid that looks similar to 3B6 RA7, who you may remember from A New Hope and Rogue One. This little soft dude scuttles off as fast as he can, and it's the complete opposite to what comes later with the Dark Troopers. During this fight, I got a lot of vibes of Batman v Superman alongside the Terminator. However, using the Beskar spear that he got from the Magistrate, he's able to take it out and blast the Dark Troopers out the airlock. Now as we guessed, the spear is used against the Darksaber so that Mando can combat Moff Gideon without getting completely annihilated. I think it was really smart to set it up as a powerful weapon against Ahsoka, as that kinda let us know that it would be able to handle the ancient sword. Cora also says the phrase Dank Farrik, which is a curse word that's popped up throughout the season, so I'm glad they keep using it, as it manages to keep the show PG-13. Now all that aside, Gideon confirms that the blood taken from Grogu will not only be used to create Snoke, but also grant Force abilities to the Emperor's clone, which was likely being worked on in episode 4. He doesn't really seem too attached to the child, and dangles the Darksaber above his head, showing that he has likely completed his goal in perfecting the technique. Now Gideon could have just killed Grogu, but I actually think that he kept him around because he knew the Emperor would be looking for a new apprentice, and that if they could corrupt him young, that they would have a powerful ally on their side. Gideon knows that Bo wants the Darksaber, and tricks Mando into thinking that the two have made a deal that will get him out alive. He says that if he lets him live, he can have the child and that they can go their separate ways, and it's all gonna be so happy. He is the bad guy though, so of course he's lying, and he lashes out, which leads to Mando and the Moff going head to head. It's an awesome action scene, and honestly, if this had been the height of the episode, then I think I would have been happy. However, things obviously go beyond it, and Mando takes them off to the bridge after sparing his life. Now there's a really tense moment in which Mando goes to hand the Darksaber over to Bo, but as the Moff says, the rules of Mandalore dictate that one cannot be given it, and they must win, or rather earn it, in order to become the leader of the planet. Mando tries to talk his way out of it by yielding, but as Gideon says, it's not just the blade, it's the story that goes with it. We don't actually see the resolution to this, and Moff says she'll perhaps get another crack at it, meaning that currently Mando is the leader of Mandalore. Well, his name is the Mandalorian, I suppose. Oh, but I think going forward, Bo will take it back, as it's just so heavily written into her story that it would be stupid to not actually let her gain the position. As has been shown in Season 2, there are loopholes and ways that you can interpret the Mandalorian rules, and depending on what sect you're part of, they can be taken differently. Sabine did give the possession of the Darksaber over to Bo in Rebels, as she said she was the one who was most fit for the position, so who knows what's even happening. Yeah, I think they kind of get lost in their own continuity sometimes, as, to me, yeah, you can just hand it over, but hey, I guess not. Now, I think it will be a big point in Season 3 that we will see them going face to face, which is why they brought it up here. I could of course be wrong, but this is one of the big plot threads that is still left dangling by the end of the series, so it does make a lot of sense. Now before they pit it out, the Dark Troopers that were blasted out of the airlock return, and they brought some reinforcements. It looks like death is certain for the group until we see a familiar looking X-Wing flying into the hangar. Now I love how the show has dropped the ships in first to tease things, and it leaves you as an audience member thinking, no, wait, is it? Now this was actually leaked this week, and after seeing the soundtrack, many eagle-eyed viewers noticed that elements of Luke's theme were being used in it, so this did tip people off that he was returning. As soon as we saw the famous Dark Cloak coming in it could only be one person, and Luke completely tears them all up. Now if you've watched our predictions video, then you'll know we said that because of the logistics of having Luke, that we didn't think him coming back was a possibility. This was because of Hamill's age and how difficult it would be to de-age him, and I just didn't think that it would be the route that they would take, but they cleverly obscure his face for most of it. That is until the end, which is when we see him standing still, and even then it looks a bit, I don't know. Just use Sebastian Stan next time, yeah? Now his arrival makes the Moff realise that he and his forces have lost, so he grabs a gun and tries to take down who he can. However, due to the Beskar armor, this fails, and thus the character turns the gun on himself. At the last second though, Cara manages to stop him ending his own life, and we do know that Giancarlo Esposito will be in the 3rd season, so expect to see him playing a central role in things going forward. I think he will likely escape and remain as the big bad, but it would be great to have the team spend some proper time with him so we could learn his true backstory and why he ended up the way he did. Now Luke takes Grogu, and Mando actually removes his helmet. They almost asked who he is, and I was really hoping that he'd say Brown Eyes Skywalker. However, that bit is skipped over, and instead he has a touching farewell that will bring a tear to the eye of even the most hardened Sith Lord. I kinda got a lot of similarities here with Luke saying farewell to his father after removing the Darth Vader helmet, and though the positions are flipped, I definitely think that they are sort of playing on that moment. I have to say though that it was excellently acted, and And I love how this entire show has basically revolved around Mando finding the person that would make him drop the rules in order to embrace his humanity. Clearly that came here, and it's an excellent way to close things out. R2-D2 arrives as well, and this was an amazing bit of fan service that already topped off what was an incredible scene. They take Grogu to Luke's Jedi Academy, and to a fate that we don't know yet. However, as we learn from The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren carried out a Jedi purge here, and it seems like Grogu is going to be thrown in the deep end once more, as he will of course be in a similar position to how he was with Order 66. We do know that Grogu isn't in the sequel trilogy, and I actually think that Mando might end up taking him from the Academy before things go down. Grogu seems very apprehensive about going with Luke, and Mando even initially says that he doesn't want to until he gives permission, so there will likely be some regret there. The sequel trilogy also takes place roughly 25 to 30 years after Return of the Jedi, and as the series is set 5 years after the events of that movie, there is plenty of time for him to train and be gone. So Grogu may indeed survive, I tell you what, he better, and be in a completely different part of the galaxy when Kylo creates his uprising. Obviously there's a lot that can be taken from that, but him being carried over Luke's shoulder instead of how he was with Mando's shows that he's lost his boy, and it's a very bittersweet way to close things out. I love you, Grogu. I love you, buddy. Now before we get into the post-credits scene, I'd massively appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe to the channel because we've got a hell of a lot more Mando things to talk about over the coming weeks. Don't forget we're giving away 3 free copies of the Lord of the Rings 4K box set, and all you have to do to win one is drop a comment below and make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Anyway, after some very long credits, we cut back to Jabba's palace and see that Bib Fortuna has taken over as the ruler of his criminal empire. The guy seems to be just lounging about, and though he's basically operating with a skeleton crew in comparison to what the Hutt had, he still commands a lot of forces. However, it doesn't last too long, and we watch as Fennec Shan enters before Boba arrives, kills Bib, and takes the throne. This is an incredible moment, and if you watched the Star Wars Disney Investor Day panel, you were probably surprised to learn that there wasn't a Boba Fett show announced. Leaks had confirmed that it was being filmed, but we didn't really get anything dropped at the event, so people didn't know whether it had been cancelled or not. Now there are rumours that this is actually going to be the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, and it is releasing in December, which is the month that the follow-on from this was meant to be. I'm making this video right after things have aired, so if it has been announced yet and we do know the details, apologies, but yeah, just kind of making this first thing. Now Boba's book does sort of sound like an add-on to me rather than its own complete spin-off, but either way, I'm glad he's going to be back, as I genuinely thought they were going to kill him off. The soundtrack also had a song in it called Rest in Peace, so I was sure it was going to either be him or Cara. However, both make it out alive. It's an incredible way to close things out, and watching him take the throne is the best thing that they could have done with the character. Now that is the series over, and I feel we can look back and say that this is the best live action Star Wars property to come out in the past 10 years. My opinion anyway. Bar episode 2, I think this just hit it out the park every single week, and it's so good that I tried watching the first season again, and due to the lack of big characters in the beginning, it felt like something was slightly missing. Now, we know that isn't really the case, but that's exactly what a show should do in numerous entries. I think back to Game of Thrones and how much I loved season 1, but then after 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 came out, it just paled in comparison. This on the most part ticked all the boxes for me, and had there not been a second episode which was just filler to me, I think it would have gotten the perfect score. Still, Mando was incredible, and I can't wait to see season 3, which is due to premiere on Christmas Day 2021. I hope you had a blast going through the episodes with me, and thank you everyone who stopped by the channel every week to watch the breakdowns. Now before we go, I just want to let you know I'm doing a big spoiler stream for suicide prevention on Sunday over at the Den of the Nerds live channel. We're going to be going over all the spoilers that we've heard on the Snyder Cut, Spider-Man 3, Wonder Woman 84 and a lot more. It's for an incredible cause, and hopefully we see you over there. Now if you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of the Wonder Woman 1984 post-credit scene, which will be linked on screen right now. We break down the entire thing, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. With that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. The Force will be with you always. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.